made a big mistake with this plant and I'm really frustrated about it. I bought it almost 2 months ago and I specifically picked out a plant that had a bunch of healthy heads that I could chop off and that also had a healthy stem that I could propagate and hopefully just get a bunch of these really cool looking Echeverias. Here is a picture of when I first bought it. You can see it was really nice and compact. It had beautiful pink tinges along the edges of the leaves. And here's how it looks now. Now, it's not terrible, but if we turn it over here on this side, you can see it's started to get stretched out. And I wish I would have paid more attention to this and not let that happen. I knew I wanted to record a video of chopping this up, but I wasn't ready at the time I got it. So I went ahead and I watered it. I bottom watered it so I knew that it would get soaked all the way into the center. And it needed some water because it was very, very dry. You can see there's a bunch of dead leaves here. And I wanted to make sure that these rosettes were really plumped up before I chopped it off. So as you can see, it was last watered 27 days ago. And you might be thinking, well, that's fine, which it is. But the issue is that when I watered it, it got a little growth spurt and I did not have this under my grow lights. And that is what caused it to stretch out. I didn't have space for it on my grow lights, and frankly, I was waiting to put them on the plant stand under the grow lights until I had it all chopped up and pruned, and that didn't happen. I am still gonna cut it up today. We'll go ahead and chop the tops off here, and I'm hoping that it'll only take a week or two, maybe 3, to bring back the color in these cuttings, and I'm really curious to see how long it will take for new growth to happen down below. To start, I am simply going to pull it out of the pot. As you can see, this soil is really compact and hard, and that is why I bottom watered it because I wanted to make sure it would get wet all the way to the center. If I just watered on top, the water would probably just sit on top or roll off down the side and it wouldn't actually get water all the way through. But that's another reason why I want to repot it and also prune it today. I'm gonna pull off these dried up leaves and then take a look at the stem and decide where I'm gonna make my cuts. Now looking close in here, you can actually see this has been propagated before. There's a stem right here that I can tell the top was chopped off and it has a few stems coming out the top. This one is really thick. These others are a bit smaller. Now I'm kind of debating where to actually cut. There's so much bare stem here and it doesn't look that great. Plus with my stretched out section, it just doesn't look that good. But I like that there's actually roots growing on the stem here. So I am thinking that for now, I am gonna pull off this part and pot it up on its own. It does have this funky curled stem and the stretched out part, but I think I'm gonna pot it and let it root and then behead it later. And that way this giant stem can put off new babies and I'll keep a couple of these leaves attached, but I think it will survive better that way. All right, let's dig in. I'm gonna just go in with my scissors and chop that off. Cutting number 1. I'm gonna pot it up just like this so that it is mostly growing upright and then it has these roots down here. So it should take pretty quickly and I think it will be ready to propagate again or behead in a couple of weeks. Now we also have a better look at the rest of what's going on here. Oh, and you know what? I am kind of leaning towards just pulling off each of these individually, potting them, and then beheading them in a few weeks. These stems are just really healthy. They've got some roots down here, and I think they're actually going to take quite well if I do it that way. The other option is I could cut it down low here, but ideally you want to have some leaves still attached when you're beheading succulents because that allows them to absorb more sunlight and then they'll put off new plants more quickly. So I would probably cut right here, but I think I'm just gonna wait because of this little stretched out part and pot this up instead. So let's chop it there. Chop it down here. Chop it right there and right there. Wow, this went very differently than I had originally planned. But we've got some really great stem cuttings. And the big reason why I am waiting is I know that if I pot these up as they are right now, this is going to grow roots. This is going to grow compact, and I will have a really nice division right here where I can cut off, where I'll leave these lower leaves and it will stay growing, and then the cutting will have a lot more growth on top. Now that this is just a bare stem, I don't know if this one will keep growing. It might, and I may as well keep it. So I'm going to remove most of this soil and pot it up in some gritty mix, and we'll water it and fertilize it and see if anything new grows on it. This root system looks really healthy, so I think there's a pretty good chance that this will put off some new offsets, and we might just have tons of this Echeveria crinoline ruffles. Can't remember now the name of it, but I love the ruffled Echeveria look. And these I think can really get a deeper color if they are under a lot of light. So my goal is to stress these cuttings and see if I can really get some nice purples and pinks out of them. Gonna start by potting the base of this. I am potting it into something smaller than it was before. I believe this is a 4-inch pot, and I'm putting it into a 3-inch pot. Now I am gonna let this dry for a day before I water it. I just like to let those roots heal so that they're less likely to rot over the next day or two as they absorb water. Now this one has a curve, and I try not to bury the stem too much, but I do want to bury part of this so that it grows upright. So I'm going to just kind of set it in and fill around with soil. This one is going to be a pain to water because the leaves completely cover the pot, but thus it is. We'll just get our little squeeze bottle or sprayer right underneath those leaves and soak it that way. This stem is not quite as big as that previous one, and it's definitely not curved as much, but I will probably bury it to about here. This one also has a little curve that we're going to bury to about here. These two are both pretty small, so I think I'm actually just going to put them in a pot together. Well, I'm still disappointed that I let these stretch out and not get enough light, but I am really excited to see what happens over the next few weeks once they start to color up a bit more and these cuttings start to root. I think we're going to have some really beautiful Echeverias here. This one giant leaf fell off, and I'm going to save it and see if it propagates. I don't know if it will, but that'd be awesome if it did. And I forgot, we still have this one too. So I'm going to put all of these under grow lights. They'll be about 12 inches above the top of the plant, and they'll be running for about 12 hours a day. So that should really help them to get a lot more color, stay more compact, and then I'll water them probably about once a week for the first 2 to 3 weeks, and then probably cut back after that once I see some new growth. I will keep you posted on how all of these grow, so check back in a few weeks.